What if Stranger Things is more than just a fictional series? In this episode, we dive into the real-world inspirations and hidden truths that may have influenced the story. Using tarot, we explore the events, societal reflections, and deeper messages embedded in the show. We'll uncover whether Stranger Things mirrors suppressed societal truths, government secrets, and psychological archetypes that resonate deeply within us. Join us as we uncover the balance between fiction and reality through the cards. Hello everyone, welcome back, or welcome if this is the first time on this channel. Today we are going into the first episode of this Stranger Things inspired series. So let's get started with question 1. What real-world inspirations, events, or energies influenced the creation of Stranger Things? So we're just looking at core influences, which would be like conspiracies, historical events, collective fears, that kind of thing. So let's see what the cards have to give us. And we are starting with Oracle because Oracle doesn't read my mind and doesn't care what I think. So it gives us a true story. After that, we'll go into Tarot. All right. Whoops. Card 1 is the Titanic. That's interesting because it says, what real-world inspirations, events, or energies influence the creation of Stranger Things? And we have the Titanic here. As the Titanic is sinking under the water and going into the unseen world beneath. Interesting. Backdraft. Fire. The way that fire eats, I guess you could say. Fire has a way of coming back to bite you when you think all is safe. Kind of reminds me of the monsters within Stranger Things. Then we have Night at the Museum. And the last card here, and we'll really dig a little deeper here. All right. So we have turn, turn, turn. I'm going to bring them down just a titch. Okay. So again, Titanic. The perfect card here would have been the Poseidon Adventure. But, and it is in these cards somewhere, Poseidon Adventure, but the Titanic, part of the Titanic is the unknowing of whether or not the story about the Titanic sinking is true. There's a lot of conspiracy out there to say, well, no, it didn't actually sink, or and the people that were claimed to have died there didn't actually die. It was all a money scenario. There's a lot of different things behind the Titanic. So real world inspirations, events, or energies that influence the creation of Stranger Things, it's the conspiracy theories, the determining whether or not something is true and pushing it to the limit. Using whatever you can use to make the story impossible to not watch. We'll put it that way. So I think they chose things that had major conspiracy theories. And, you know, when we're talking about like Backdraft, we have fire here. But fire can be considered a monster because it eats and eats and eats. So if you look at that, they brought in the monsters like Bigfoot, cryptid creatures. and I brought up Bigfoot because that's usually the first one that comes to the foreground in my mind anyway. But cryptid creatures, things that nobody would want to meet in a dark alley, we'll put it that way. And the backdraft card kind of shows you what kind of monster or monsters that we're dealing with, and not necessarily just of the inhuman kind. And then Night of the Museum, that card is just saying that there's a lot of things that we do not see going on in the world on a regular basis. So anything, this would have been a great movie for them to be inspired by, if in fact the writers used it, because who's going to think that displays come alive at night? Well, nobody. Basically nobody. So it was just anything can happen when you're not looking, or only certain people are privy to things that happen that would be considered unusual. And in Stranger Things, only certain people were privy, in the laboratory, were privy to what was going on, at least at the start. And then Turn, Turn, Turn. I'm going to say that one, they kept the excitement going. Knowing that people are hooked by the fact that there's always something around the next bend. But you can't just keep the same old thing going, because it just doesn't work. People will get bored very quickly. So they just kept the momentum going, just kept turning the plot and turning the plot and turning the plot. Then we have Lord of the Rings. Yeah, they needed to make this the ultimate battle in creating this show, in creating Stranger Things. They had to make it the ultimate battle. Human against, there were a lot of different creatures within the Lord of the Rings. So a lot of different creatures to deal with and unknowns to deal with on a regular basis. The Great Gatsby. And for this card, I think this main line, it's bizarre and it's melodramatic. So they needed to do that for the show also. Make sure that whatever they chose for real world inspiration or events or energies that influence the show, they need to make sure that it was bizarre and that it was very melodramatic. And then we have Every Kind of People. Yeah, it needed to appeal to all kinds of people, this show. It had to appeal to all kinds of people to make it as popular as it was. And we all kind of, most of us anyway, like to get that chill. It just is. That's who we are. All right, so we're going to switch over to tarot here. And I do have the Stranger Things deck. They're huge. Much, much bigger than the small ones that I normally use. Look at the difference. Yeah. So we're going to fit these on here to the best of the ability. I just really couldn't resist using Stranger Things. They don't shuffle easily because of the card stock, but we're going to get through it. All right. Going to do a quick split here. All right. So with Titanic, they're a little hard to grab too. We have the Magician. Oh yeah. They wanted to make sure that the events that they chose, like the Titanic, those things that didn't really make sense or had a lot of conspiracy theories behind them, there's a lot of trickster energy that can work in their favor with this show, for sure. And then we have Five of Scoops. So with the monsters, they had to make life as chaotic and crazy as they possibly can. Make it scary. Make it, well, monsters eat things. We have the ice cream cone here. We have 5 scoops of ice cream, so they wanted to make sure it was not over the top scary, because then nobody would want to watch it, but just right, just in the middle. Make it as chaotic and crazy as they possibly could. And then we have, I think I have one card there, the 7 of Scoops, or the 7 of Pentacles. They planted the seed at the very, very start of this show. You knew from watching the very first episode that it was going to be something that you just had to keep watching, and that it was going to deal with real world things like Will, who went missing, and things that we don't know anything about, things that are unknown. Brilliant. Goodness, this time we have the 9 of Scoops with turn, turn, turn. Okay, so we have the 9 of Scoops here. Looks like we have a lot of scoops. It is a new deck, but I take the cards as they fall, and they have been shuffled really well. So the 9 of Scoops with turn, turn, turn. This was their way of making life at first appear to be just as normal as could possibly be. And then with turn, 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 they hit you at every corner with something new. Brilliant, brilliant work. And then we have the Page of Scoops with Lord of the Rings. And interestingly, the Page of Page of Pentacles, which is what this is my life quest card, okay? And with Lord of the Rings, like I said, there's a lot of different creatures and quests and that kind of thing within the Lord of the Rings. Not just one thing is going on at a time. So many different things are going on at a time, and this is all brand new to the watcher. As soon as the show gets started, there are messages galore. There are things going on right away. There's no waiting. It's again, brilliant work. And then we have The Great Gatsby with It Is Bizarre, It's Melodramatic, and we have the Queen of Scoops. They have also somehow managed to get us to be able to relate to the characters in this show, so that all of these scenarios that they are going through, these, wherever they receive their real world inspirations and what events that they used and the energies that they wanted to put into this show, they made sure that it was relatable, that we care about the characters. Because that's what makes it crazy bizarre. Not just the things that happen, but the things that happen to these people. And it's melodramatic. I mean, if you think about Will's mom and the lights, and I'm hoping that you've seen Stranger Things if you're watching this, because oh my goodness. All right. And then we have Ace of Dice or Ace of Swords with Every Kind of People. Yeah, they wanted to make sure with this show that it would appeal to all different kinds of people, obviously, okay? But also hitting the mind with such mind-bending things that it would appeal to a large variety of people. So what they put into the mind, what they shared, their ideas and so forth with this entire show appeals to Well, so many. Their audience is huge because of the planning that they put into this show. So there were a lot of different things I think that they used for inspiration, but they built upon it and made it absolutely amazing. All right, so we are going to pick up these cards here now and move on to question 2. If you're new on my channel, I do this kind of splitting up of the deck, putting them away in this way because it is my way of making sure the cards are better mixed, and that way if we get repeat cards, they're meant to be repeat. I know it's not just because I didn't shuffle properly. All right, so we are going to get these picked up and move on to question 2. All right, here we go. Question 2. Is there hidden or suppressed information embedded in the show's storyline? In other words, is there hidden classified knowledge, esoteric sources, or real investigations that we really know nothing about? So let us see where the cards take us for this. The Postman. I'm going to take that as a yes because we have a postal carrier here. And it is obviously against the law to go into someone else's mail or open someone else's mail. And they deliver, so everything that they deliver is secret. It's all secret in envelopes. And the only things that aren't secret are whatever you see in a newspaper flyer, things that are open. But anything in an envelope, which is still a large part of what they deliver, is considered secret, classified, for the addressee's eyes only. So I'm going to say yes, there is hidden or suppressed information embedded in the show's storyline. Then we have Bus Stop. And just taking a look at who's on this card, there is a lot of conspiracy there about Marilyn Monroe and how she passed and what her life was like. So I'm going to say that that's just, they're saying, oh yeah, there's confidential or classified information in there. There's real investigations in there. So let's see where we go with the third card. "2012. And 2012 is an apocalyptic type of card or movie. So is The Postman, for that matter. So, and we were warned. You can't see that, but yeah, we were warned at the top of that card. So again, there's real world things going on in this show, embedded in the storyline, whether we see it or not. And I'm not saying this is specifically about the movie 2012, okay, that it's about the world, earthquakes and floods and so on and so forth. I'm not saying that that's what goes on in Stranger Things, but there are things that are end of the world like in Stranger Things. Okay. And we have Forgiveness. And it has sorry, sorry, sorry written all over this card. And I feel like this forgiveness is them just saying, I'm sorry, but we can't give it all away You're going to have to look into it yourself and see, what maybe we've hidden, what classified information we're pulling this from, that kind of thing. But we're sorry, we cannot give you that information straight out. Then we have Spirit in the Sky. Seven Years in Tibet. And there's our Poseidon adventure. So yeah, they're also using otherworldly situations within this, which, if we're talking aliens, obviously that is classified knowledge, allegedly, even though supposedly things are coming out about that. But it digs into also people's personal, really connects to their personal belief systems in this show, and deals with a great deal of death. And with 7 Years of Tibet, this is basically looking at what happens to the characters in this show, how they each learn or are affected by everything that is going on in this show, the hidden information that, and probably very much like how many of us also deal with things that we find out that aren't anything like we thought they were supposed to be. And maybe there is such a thing as the upside down. Maybe that's a classified information here that we really aren't privy to, but maybe there really is an upside down. And that's some of the esoteric knowledge, classified knowledge that these writers somehow are privy to, whether it be from their dreams or maybe their guides have, maybe they're getting channeled downloads, who knows, about this show and what to write. But Poseidon Adventure, it's about a ship that went upside down, and they're living in an upside down world on that ship trying to find their way out. So pretty impressive there. All right, so let's see what the tarot has to say. And again, we're looking into, is there hidden or suppressed information embedded in the show's storyline? So far, it's a definite yes, and they are giving us varied things that are happening, from apocalyptic things to real investigations that have taken place and probably still are to some degree. So let's see where we go. These cards are really difficult. Okay, so we've got the Six of Swords. And on this card, it says, "Here there be monsters." So it's just adding to the suppressed information or the classified information that we're seeing here with the male, everything classified, just a yes. And yes, here there be monsters. Queen of Strands or Queen of Wands. Yeah, the energy is real investigation. Real world investigation. They've actually taken some things, and maybe if you take the show apart, that will make sense to you. But most people are just into the watching. But yes, they took, for Marilyn Monroe, she was like a really big conspiracy. So this is just adding to saying, here's the energy. This is the energy of Wands, and it is about someone that everybody loved. So yes, real world. And then we have Page of Strands with 2012. So Page of Wands, using the same, the same games, okay? For instance, when there's something going on in our real world, okay, we're told something completely different. It's a whole new story that really oftentimes doesn't make sense. That's the energy that is put out there, always. This is just, we're not really going to tell you the truth. We're just going to say it is this, and you need to live with it. Then we have the 9 of Strands. Yep, their back is against the wall. They cannot tell all. They just can't, for the sake of the show, and also for the sake of not getting into trouble if they have their own take on such things as Marilyn Monroe and end of the world scenarios, that kind of thing. Then we have, I'm going to move that apart, Spirit in the Sky with the 7 of Wands. So whatever this spirit in the sky is, whether it's otherworldly beings, or basically that's what we have in Stranger Things, otherworldly beings, it is guaranteed that it's something that we are required to defend ourselves against, but can't if we don't know what it really is. So the characters in Stranger Things need to defend themselves, but they've never encountered anything like this before. So very difficult for them to know how to do that kind of defending. But it is based upon esoteric sources that these writers have had, and they're telling you, you need to defend against it. Then we have the 5 of Strands, which is the 5 of Wands, with 7 years in Tibet. And yes, every single character in this show reacts in a different manner. You've got some that seem very calm about what's going on. You've got like Will's mom, who is absolutely, I mean, she's losing her mind. She literally is losing her mind. And as they said in the show, she didn't have a long ways to go with that anyway. But this is just sharing the chaos, the varied chaos that's going on from the things that are happening in Stranger Things that are based on a lot of true situations and true ways that people have reacted over varied situations. And last but not least, we have the 9 of Scoops, or the 9 of Pentacles. Yeah, we have a world up here that appears to be quite amazing and in most cases quite wonderful, but that's the surface. What lies underneath? If it's turned upside down, how many truths are going to come out? Because it's a mirror image in an upside down manner. So there's more going on up here than meets the eye. It's all classified information that we aren't supposed to know about. So let's get this cleaned up and move on to question 3. Yeah. These cards are definitely difficult to work with, and I even split them up really, really well. Also, if you are new here, you might hear strange noises in the background of pretty much all my videos, and that would be my Chihuahua, who likes to lay in my room and sometimes out in the other room quite some distance away, and you'll hear him snoring. He sleeps through my recordings, through the majority of them, but again, he snores like crazy. So it's a part of life in my world and kind of bleeds into yours, right? Through these recordings. All right, so let's take a look at question 3. How does Stranger Things reflect real societal or psychological truths? So we're looking for connections to human experience or traumas, that kind of thing. How does it reflect real life or psychological truths? We have good news. And I think from this card, it is mostly, when it says good news, it's talking, and we're talking about reflecting real societal or psychological truths, what we're looking for, what our human experience is, what trauma is. And we're all looking for good news. So as we watch Stranger Things, yes, we are horrified over the things that these people are looking for. But you know what? We're still hopeful. We're still waiting for the good news that all is well, that they've survived, that they've come through it unscathed. Okay? That is just a natural, seems to be a natural human condition where we're always hopeful for something good to happen, waiting for something good to happen, for the tides to turn. And here we have the postman again. There are those out there who are kind of the gloom and doom type. So it's not everybody is, holding on to the hope, okay? There are the gloom and doom type that are absolutely certain that we're just not going to make it. The world is going to end, and that's the way it's going to be. And it sure does look like it in Stranger Things. But then suddenly something will happen that makes it look like things are being restored. And on this card, on the postman, it says Restored United States of America on this flag. So it looks like things are going to be restored, but that it's going to be a struggle, absolute struggle. And there's those who aren't going to believe it. And then we have Roadhouse. What we see in Stranger Things are people willing to fight to make their world go back to normal, to somehow eliminate the upside down, to take things back to what it was before they discovered that the upside down actually existed. There are those people who will fight for that. So when it comes to human experience here and different kinds of trauma that people have gone through, you've got the really optimistic ones. You've got the ones who are absolutely sure that we are doomed. You've got the fighters. So let's see what else it shares. There's all of those in Stranger Things. Anna and the King. We have those who are doing their best to keep the peace. No matter what's happening, no matter what people they are dealing with, they want to keep the peace. But they're in unfamiliar territory. So keeping that peace is and can be quite traumatic. Think of the sheriff. He knows the town really well, but he's in unfamiliar territory with what's going on in Stranger Things, with the upside down. He's in absolute unfamiliar territory, but he's still trying to keep the peace, still trying to hold everybody together. And we have Release, Titanic again, and War of the Worlds. So I think this is saying, just say goodbye. It's like this little girl, and she loses her balloon or lets go of the balloon, and she's saying goodbye. Goodbye, balloon. Say goodbye to whatever you think you know. Because none of it is as you believe it to be. Just like the conspiracy of the Titanic. Did it sink or did it not sink? There's different schools of thought here. So how people react to Stranger Things is going to be based on what their belief systems are and what kind of people that they are. But what all of us are going to see is the war of the worlds. Not necessarily beings from outer space. This is a war between normal Earth and the upside down, the mirrored version. This is this war that these people in Stranger Things are dealing with. And it is, I guess, not so far-fetched. There's definitely always some kind of war going on up here on our side that make us react in varied ways. So whatever experiences we have, whatever our belief systems are, Stranger Things works with that. So let's see what Tarot has to add. Trying to get them a little better shuffled here. All right. Starting out with the Seven of Swords, or Seven of Dice as it says here. These are the people who understand that they don't know everything that is actually going on out there, okay? They know that this is usually the card that shows the swords being stolen, okay? Here we have a treasure. This is saying we know or we don't know why the swords are stolen. We don't know why the treasure might be stolen. So we can still be optimistic because it might be for a good reason, not a bad reason. We can still be optimistic. Then we have the Eight of Swords. And these are the people. Now, if you look at the card, it is kind of dark looking. So the Eight of Swords here, this is saying these people are very attached to the fact that the world is coming to an end. This is what they truly believe. And why? Because they do believe that they are victims and will remain victims. So that's part of the human experience, the trauma, whatever it is that these people have gone through. This is where their mindset stays. Then we have the Ten of Swords. This is for those people who are going to fight for pretty much everything that they believe in. They're going to fight very hard. And with the Ten of Swords, they're going, yep, I've made up my mind. There is nothing that you can say, do, nothing that is going to stop me from coming up with new ideas, new ways to fight. It's who I am. It's what I will do. Knight of Dice. So the Knight of Swords. This is the person who not only can think for themselves, but takes action in their own way. Like with Anna and the King. Things might be unfamiliar, but they're going to use their best ideas, best thoughts to move forward and do whatever it is that they're supposed to do to keep the peace, to keep everyone sane, to keep things rolling. King of Dice, or King of Swords. Yeah, this again is saying let go of whatever it is you think is going to happen, whatever you think, whatever you believe, just let it go. because it's going to twist and turn in a way that there's nothing you can do about it. However, you are going to react in whatever way you're accustomed to reacting. So then we have Two of Spokes, which is Two of Cups. The fact is, we really do want to feel secure in ourselves. But with so many different things happening in the world, that is difficult to do. We have emotions, and we need to decide at any given time what emotion is going to suit us right then and there. It's a difficult decision, but it's how it works. And then we have the Four of Spokes, or the Four of Cups. And with War of the Worlds, again, this is obviously a war of some kind. Up here, down below, in the upside down. The Four of Spokes is looking for something stable up here. Something to be secure up here. Something to make sure that our emotions don't go off the deep end. Because it can happen. Not necessarily because of the show. I'm just saying because, if we heard that there was a war of the world, something happening in our world right now, how would we react? Would we be optimistic? Would we be pessimistic? Would we defend beyond all costs? Would we try to keep the peace? Would we let go of whatever it is that we can't control, as the king can't control, and try and deal with the emotions to the best of our ability, try to keep ourselves calm and stable and feeling secure? So yeah, Stranger Things hits all of those. All right, so let us get this picked up. And see where we can go with question 4. Also, this is the first episode of Stranger Things, but there has been other episodes, Fringe and Simpsons predictions, Twilight Zone, that's always each week. So there's been a lot of different episodes to choose from, and I really enjoy doing them. So if you enjoy what I'm doing and what I'm offering, please don't hesitate to like and subscribe and to possibly share, but also to make sure that you comment, because the comments, I love reading the comments. If you enjoy seeing what the cards mean to you, you might be behind, on the other side of the screen going, no, don't you see this? To me, don't you see? It means this. I'd love to hear what your take is. All right, so next question. Is there a deeper truth or warning encoded in the narrative? In other words, like symbolic messaging or a soft disclosure of some kind. As they said, forgive us, we can't just blatantly come out and say, we have this information and we're going to use it and we're going to tell you exactly what it is. No, this is soft disclosure. So, is there a deeper truth or warning encoded in the narrative of Stranger Things? So we have Erin Brockovich, and if you've seen that one, it is her fighting against a very large company that is killing people. If I remember right, it's in the water. It's causing all kinds of health issues from drinking the water, or gosh, it's been a long time since I've seen that show. At any rate, she's fighting a big company. So I would say that's kind of symbolic messaging here. The laboratory at the start, that's a big company at the start of Stranger Things. It's even difficult for the sheriff to get in, to look around. Roadhouse again. And that's, I'm going to say, that's a yes. You know, they're saying you need to be ready to defend yourself. That's the symbolic messaging of Roadhouse. You need to be ready to defend yourself against this big company. Well, in the show, that's how it works, right? So does that indicate a big company out here? Possibly. You never know. Patch Adams. And in Patch Adams, it's kind of a card about being different. Robin Williams in this movie, he wanted to enjoy medicine. He wanted to get to know his patients. He wanted to give them the best possible loving care that he could. And that was frowned upon. They made it very hard for him to try to practice. And then he lost the woman he loved, and that almost made him completely give up. He blamed himself for that. So if we're looking at soft disclosure or symbolic messaging, you know, what big company might we have to defend ourselves against? Stranger Things is showing us the laboratory. Some big company using things against us. It's perhaps medical in nature, allegedly. So let's see what else we have here. The Truman Show. Yeah, it's, as it's showing here with the Truman Show, it's being watched. It's every move that's being made is being watched. And this could be the large company in Stranger Things that is watching what's going on, and they are tapped into certain areas, as we see in the very beginning. They're tapped into certain areas, able to spy in certain places as they're attempting to find 11. Then we have Midnight Train to Georgia. We have the Poseidon Adventure again. And we have Harry Potter. I think with Midnight Train to Georgia, this is all about basically returning back to the simple life. And symbolic messaging here perhaps is 11 and the sheriff. Cabin in the woods kind of thing. Safe place to be. Maybe, you know, they're saying get off the grid. Maybe that is the soft disclosure they're giving out. Using different areas of Stranger Things. Poseidon Adventure, we've got the upside down again. I mean, you know, you can't make it up. They're just happening the way that they're happening, right? So with the Poseidon Adventure, again, this is one of those disasters that is fiction, but it has happened to actual ships in the past. I don't know if it's happened exactly like this, but you know that the idea comes from somewhere. So their idea of the upside down is saying, perhaps, you know, the world, get back to the simple basics here, because the world could turn upside down at any moment. Any moment. And with Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, well, that's just saying that there's a lot of secrets out there, things that we don't know. And there's people within chambers creating these secrets. Just like in the laboratory and with the company, the laboratory company that was experimenting with 11. Same scenario. There's a lot of secrets out there. People being used for experiments. So I think that's a lot of, it's pretty straightforward in its soft disclosure or symbolic messaging. Fighting against a large company, letting us know that we have to defend against this large company. Could be medically related, allegedly, that we're being spied upon, that maybe getting back to the basics, simple, which might mean no television, no, that kind of thing, growing our own food, doing whatever our ancestors did, or our grandparents, because the world could turn upside down at any time, because there is a chamber of secrets. There are people who are doing things, coming up with things that aren't necessarily good for us. That's a lot of soft disclosure and symbolic messaging through Stranger Things. All right, hopefully these are shuffled a little better. Oops. Okay. So the tarot. Oh, that's 2 cards. Ugh. See, they're very thick card stock, so they're hard to get apart. 10 of Spokes or 10 of Cups. Yes. This is like the ultimate emotion. Life is supposed to be a happy, happy place. And, for all practical purposes, it looked like it, or it looks like it. However, there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that we might be missing. Page of Strands, so Page of Wands. Yeah, there's an energy. There's an energy that says, expect the unexpected. You might have to defend yourself, expect the unexpected, because this isn't factual. There's a lot of things under the scenes going on. Then we have Knight of Spokes, which is the Knight of Cups. This is hitting the emotions and causing people to react or act using their emotions but without thinking. Okay, so just like an involuntary way to react to a scenario about something that is going on, something upsetting, reacting before thinking. And this is, with Patch Adams, this is saying, stop for a moment, just consider what's happening, walk away for a little bit, come back, and then take a look. If you still need to react, then react, but don't just react. Then we have the Truman Show, the Fool. Yes. We're being treated as fools, allegedly. Being spied upon, watched, told complete lies, etc. And how does that relate to Stranger Things? The laboratory company. They think that everybody around them doesn't need to know what it is that they're doing because, number one, they probably couldn't handle it. Number two, it's none of their business. And number three, they don't have the power. So yeah, everybody else is a fool. Then we have the Six of Scoops, or the Six of Pentacles. This is the nostalgia card. This is going back, as we said, Midnight Train to Georgia, returning to the roots. Starting over. Eight of Scoops with the Poseidon Adventure. This is the card that says never stop working at keeping yourself above ground, okay? Not allowing yourself to be taken under into that upside down world. There are things that you can do that make sure that that doesn't happen, but you have to keep working at it. Keep working at it. Keep trying to master the human condition. Then we have the Ten of Scoops with Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, which is the Ten of Pentacles. That's the legacy card. So the legacy that these people who are like the laboratory people, their legacy is to have control of the world. And same with Chamber of Secrets here with Harry Potter. It's to, the Chamber of Secrets is where Voldemort had Ginny, where Voldemort lured Harry and the giant snake that he had to fight. So there are not good things in that Chamber of Secrets. There's things that someone is trying to rule the world and they have to get out of the way, those people who are in their way. Same kind of scenario in Stranger Things. All right, so we're going to pick all these up again and move on to question 5. There's 6 questions in this show, this particular episode. Okay, so strange that they are so close together like that, because I separated them one by one and not just by shuffling, because it was a brand new deck. And they're still coming out, so I'm going to say that's the way it's meant to be. And it's definitely continuing the story. All right, so question 5. What is the balance between storytelling and real-life truth within the series? And I think they're looking for like an overall percent of real versus imagined. So numbers are not the strong suit with tarot or oracle, at least this oracle. So let's see where this question goes. What is the balance between storytelling and real life truth within the series? Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Okay. I'm not real familiar with this movie. Okay. I mean, I know the basic premise of it. However, how often this person is Dr. Jekyll and how often they're Mr. Hyde, I don't know. Is it a 50-50? Is it a, I don't know, 30-70? I think as time goes on, if I remember correctly, as time goes on with this movie, the Dr. Jekyll, or the bad one, I think that's Dr. Jekyll. Yeah, I don't know which is the bad and which is good. But anyway, the bad one starts taking over more often. So when it says what is the balance or the overall percentage of real versus imagined storytelling and real life truth within Stranger Things, I'm going to say 50-50, and then as things move on, it gets more real life. Then we have Dante's Peak. This is one of those movies, one of my favorites, in fact, one of those movies that the company comes in and says, there's nothing to worry about, even though there's one guy that's just like, you've got to pay attention to this. You know, this volcano is going to erupt. And the company he works for is like, oh, you know, we've been here a week. Nothing's happening. We're going to go home tomorrow. And guess what? That night, they start getting the signs that the volcano is going to take out the town. Well, if you look around at what's going on in the world today, there's a lot of volcanoes and such happening, right? Does that match? So in Stranger Things, you know, there's a lot of disbelief at first, especially from the adults. And then they start seeing more and more that lets them know that, you know, they can't just put their head in the sand. It doesn't work. Gladiator. I think this goes two ways. This is showing people who are willing to fight and people who are willing to stand by and watch people fight. I think there's a lot of truth to that. Those who do fight are really willing to fight. Seven days leave. There's going to be people who think that, you know, there is no percentage of real versus imagined in Stranger Things. It's all talk to them. Just all talk. I've never been to me. This is probably one of the biggest things because, as you can see, this person, well, maybe you can see, this person is actually looking in the mirror. And I think one of the most interesting things that they do in Stranger Things is, number one, the upside down is supposed to be, if I remember correctly, mirrored, thus this indication, but also people have to look closely at who they are. The characters in the show have to look carefully at who they are. And, you know, whatever end they come out on, are they going to fall apart through this series? Or are they going to pick themselves up and fight? Or stand by and watch other people fight? They have to look closely at who they are. And I think that is very much in a disaster kind of situation, a whatever kind of situation, war in real life. I think everybody has to take that look and decide where they are. Then we have magic. And we have Sister Act. So I think with magic, this is talking about those people who discover that they're literally grateful to be alive. That life is worth living. This is who they discover they want to be. They feel like life is worth living. So yes, they're going to fight. Then you've got others of them who are like, this is the way I have to act, but it's not really who I am. So they might convince people that they're fighters until it actually comes right down to it. Then they either go cower in a corner or they just stand back and watch. So the first card, I think, told the majority of the answer to the question, which was the overall percent of real versus imagined things going on, truth, things going on in Stranger Things. 50-50, and then it just gets stronger. If you look at the storyline in conjunction to what's going on in the world, and especially back when the story began. But again, that's all increased, even in the real world for us, right? So let's see where tarot goes. Okay, we have the World. I think this is just saying it's going to keep going until the series is complete. They're going to continue doing real versus imagined and still until the story is complete. Then we have the Six of Swords. And again, here there be monsters, real and imagined. The Sun. This is the clarity. Seeing things exactly for what they are. It is the clarity that I think the writers are hoping for, that people will see the correlation between real and imagined, that the clarity will be there, and that they will become fighters instead of spectators. Then we have the Star. With 7 days leave, it says here, an unusual, different, all-talking picture, okay? The other thing that I meant to say about this is that some people might think that this is an unusual or different kind of show, okay? That if it's doing all of this. But no, that is not the case. There are many, and with the Star, this is the card I use for like my spirit guides and my angels and other worldly beings that do good things for us. That's the contact that we can have. We always have help with things. Should we want that help? We need to ask for it, but there's always help. And many people think that spirit guides are imagined. That it's just all talk, all baloney. Many people think that angels don't exist. So it is a matter of, again, real versus imagination. Is that a 50-50 in real life, or is it another percentage? All right, so the Devil. I'm going to move that up. The Devil with I've Never Been to Me. Yes, this is looking into yourself and seeing exactly where you are letting your power go, where you are allowing people to steal your power instead of being authentic in who you actually are. And there's a lot of that going on in Stranger Things. And then we have Death. Interestingly, I've just started rewatching the show as I'm doing this series, and this is the image of Barb sitting by the pool that just happened in like the last episode. And this card is Death. So yes, this is saying grateful to be alive. Some people, through these things that are taking place, both in Stranger Things and real life, all of a sudden they're transformed and they are grateful to be alive. If they were moaners and gripers before, whatever happened, and then suddenly they're like, wow, I survived that. I am so grateful to be alive. And that is how they live their life from that point on. Then they're fighters. And then we have the Eight of Swords. Yeah, this is the victim mentality. This is the act. These are the people who pretend like they're strong and pretend like they got it all under control and big talk and whatever, but in fact they are very much the victim, feel like the victim, and they are definitely going to be a spectator or a hider when it comes right down to it. So I can't give an actual percentage-wise, but Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, you can come up with your own, but it is definitely a yes, that there is a percentage. using Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Thought that was actually pretty brilliant where the cards were concerned. So let's get these picked up and move on to question 6, which is the bonus question. The last question for this episode. And we'll also give a teaser for the upcoming episode for Stranger Things Inspired at the end. So don't miss that. All right, so let's get these put away as randomly as possible. All right, so the bonus question. Why does Stranger Things resonate so deeply with people? Good question. Why is the show so well liked and so watched? Reign of Fire. My all-time favorite movie, by the way. It has everything. It has, Stranger Things has monsters. And here there's dragons. It has the end of the world scenario. It has heroes. It has victims. It has everything. The writers really thought it all out, and it has everything that appeals. Refocus. I think with refocus, because of the strangeness of Stranger Things, okay, the different things that go on, there's a lot of times that the characters have to completely refocus their mind, completely revamp their ideas, completely change the plan that they had to start with, because all of a sudden the realization is that's not going to work. They get started and then, oh crap, right? So we're always on the edge of our seat. But refocusing, the way the writers did this refocus is phenomenal because it keeps the interest flowing. For those of us, you don't want to look at a show and go, oh, that, I know exactly what's going to happen here, and have it be exactly what happens. Nobody enjoys shows that they can predict minute by minute. So there's a lot of refocusing. Dante's Peak. There it is again. Another one of my favorite shows. When they promise disaster you can guarantee you're going to get. That's how this works. And because the buildup for the disaster is there, and they build it up, usually with more than one story per episode, dealing with more than one person per episode. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. You know that what they promise, that they're building up to, is going to happen. So they deliver. The Twilight Zone. It's going to be something that you don't know if it's real or not. It's unseen things. It's mind twists. Yeah, that's what it's all about. It's why it resonates. Daddy, Don't You Walk So Fast. Trouble. And again, Sister Act. Okay, so with Daddy, Don't You Walk So Fast, they've gotten characters that work. They're really good at what they do. They're really good at pulling the audience in. So good. You feel the trouble. You feel like you're a part of the trouble. All these characters, all these actors and actresses, they know how to act. They know how to play their part. And it's phenomenal. It keeps people watching. You got to know what's going to happen next. It's just very important. And that's a big thing in shows for me, is if in the first episode I cannot relate to the characters, I don't watch any more of it. Those that have characters, well thought out story plot and well chosen actors and actresses, oh yeah. You got to know who they are. You've got to feel something in the first episode or the pilot. All right, so let's see what Tarot has to add. So with Reign of Fire, we have the 8 of Swords. Yeah, this is the 8 of Swords is all about feeling victim. It is, they make you look at these characters going, oh my goodness, look what's happening to them. There's monsters, there's fire, there's darkness, there's, oh my God, what's going to, you are on the edge of your seat with it. 2 of Spokes. Yeah, you're rooting for these characters, and it's not just one character you're rooting for per episode. You're rooting for more than one. You're constantly having to refocus within an episode, which keeps it fresh too. Queen of Scoops, which is Queen of Pentacles. This one is, to me, okay, is Will's mom. She might seem like a crazy woman. She's trying really hard to find her son. She wants to find her son. And even though she's a mess, she loves him and loves him dearly. She loves him, and her earthly mom is coming out. It would be the way you would expect most moms to react, because we have that earthly emotion. Is she going to find him? Well, with all that she's going through, something's going to explode. Something's definitely going to happen, and Stranger Things is going to deliver. Queen of Dice. So we've got Queen of Swords. Yes. You don't know where this is going. The writers have, oh wow, they've put a lot of care into making it as Twilight Zone as possible, with as many twists as possible, with making our perceptions of things not necessarily be what our perception of things is. They've done a phenomenal job there. Page of Dice with Daddy Don't You Walk So Fast, which is the Page of Swords. Yeah, we got close immediately, I think, to all the kids. Because that's where things started. It's about the kids. So yes, it is being close first to the young people, and then the follow-up story, basically, or the closeness then goes to the adults. And who's doing what to help these children. Then we have the Sun with Trouble. They kind of knew how to balance the good things and the not so good things. Maybe not in every episode, but you know that there's always going to be a good and a bad side. And when things get too hot and heavy, they lighten. That's helpful. It gives us a chance to refocus and a chance to breathe for a moment, and then they can really take us down the rabbit hole again. And the Ten of Scoops, which is the Ten of Pentacles. These actors have and are leaving a legacy behind them. They have done such a phenomenal job at what they do. No different than like Harry Potter. Okay, all the Harry Potter shows, the actors in that, they chose them well. They really did. Might have been a little not so sure in Chamber of Secrets, but towards, about, I'm going to say a little over a quarter of the way through, you knew that it was going to be phenomenal. Okay. And it ended up being a phenomenal series, as this one is as well. You have to see the next one. They have done such a phenomenal job that you just have to see the rest of it. Okay, so that is it for this first episode of Stranger Things Inspired. The next episode, and here's your teaser. Next episode, we're pulling back the curtain between worlds. Strange sightings, shifting memories, unseen things creeping through the cracks. What if the upside down isn't fiction, but a warning? Episode 2 asks, what's slipping into our reality? And are we already too late to stop it? So there is your teaser for the next episode. And where this one was a lot about the show itself and the writers and how it's put together kind of thing. The next one is going to be more along the lines of, well, I'll give you a hint as to the first question in the next one is, what cracks in our reality hint at another world beneath this one? So what kind of unexplainable glitches or deja vu or shadowy overlaps, what's coming through? So that is where the next episode is going to go. It's going to be more real life for us versus show. Also on the screen, I have the show schedule. As you can see that I do 3 different shows each week. So you might want to take a look at that. And with that said, this is where we end this episode. Thank you so much for being a part of it. I do hope that you made it to the end with me. So until next week, have a great one. Take care.